we start with various types of anemias and few investigations in case of anemias. Now, as you know, anemia is a very common disease. It can be divided into various types depending upon the size of RBC. It can also be defined depending upon the cause of the anemia. So, anemia is decrease in hemoglobin concentration of a patient. As a result, patient feels weakness. Now, depending upon the size of RBCs, it can be divided into microcytic anemia, macrocytic anemia and normocytic anemia. That is, microcytic is the RBC size is smaller. Macrocyte RBC size is larger than normal, and normocytic is RBC size is normal. So you have microcytic hypochromic anemia in which RBCs are small, macrocytic anemia in which RBC size is larger, and normocytic anemia in which RBC size is normal. Sometimes the anemia can be because of failure of bone marrow to produce blood or RBCs. Now, what is bone marrow? Bone marrow is a tissue which is residing or which is there inside various bones. Now, this bone marrow is a tissue which produces RBCs, WBCs and platelets. So, the normal blood is produced by bone marrow cells. So, where is this bone marrow situated? In an adult, the bone marrow is situated in few flat bones, that is sternum, which is there in the anterior part of the chest. You can have bone marrow in ilium or pelvis. You can have bone marrow in few long bones like femur, tibia. So, the blood is produced in small cavities in flat bones like pelvic bones, sternum or few long bones. Now, this bone marrow can be aspirated with a needle, spread on glass slides. They are stained and examined under microscope for any disease. So, this slide shows a skeleton, human skeleton and bone marrow smears. So, if you observe the bone marrow smears, they are spread on various glass slides, and as you can notice, the bone marrow is red, and throughout the smear you are noticing multiple small particles. So, an aspirated bone marrow is spread on the glass slide, and with another glass slide it is made into a peripheral smear like smear, where at the end of the smear you get multiple particles. Now, these are bone marrow particles. Now, these smears, they are afterwards stained. So, what is the commonest site from which bone marrow is taken? It is anterior superior iliac crest. Now, with the help of a typical bone marrow needle, we get a piece of bone which is called as bone marrow biopsy. We get aspiration smears. The aspiration smears are air dried. The piece of bone marrow or the biopsy, with this you get two imprint smears. The biopsy is pressed on a glass slide, and now with the help of these 1 or 2 imprint smears and 5 to 6 aspiration smears, these are fixed. A part of bone marrow is converted into clot. The biopsy and clot, they are kept in formal saline. It is a solution which is used as a fixative for any biopsy material. The biopsy is kept for 5 to 6 hours in diluted nitric acid. This is for decalcification. As you know, the piece of bone is hard, so it is very difficult to cut for histopathological examination. So we keep it in nitric acid. This nitric acid will remove the calcium and make the bone marrow piece of bone or bone marrow biopsy soft. Now this softened bone marrow biopsy is then transferred to various solutions, first alcohol, then xylene, and then paraffin for histopathological examination. You have various smears of bone marrow. Now these smears are stained with Leishman stain, and if required, some special stain also can be performed, like iron stain, myeloperoxidase stain, and PAS stain. Usually bone marrow biopsy and bone marrow smears are taken or provided by clinicians. We get bone marrow smears which are air dried. They are transported to laboratory in a well covered container. The bone marrow smears must be properly labeled. The slides are kept at room temperature. Usually we get 7 to 10 bone marrow smears. Now these smears, as you know, are air dried. They first are wrapped in a closed dry environment for their use if required. Part of this bone marrow sample can be submitted for cytogenetic studies and immunophenotyping. These are specialized tests in which the bone marrow cells are studied for their typing and genetic abnormalities if they have. How do you process the bone marrow smears? The bone marrow slide or bone marrow smear is kept in methanol for 5 minutes, and one of the slide is stained with field stain. 2 to 3 slides are stained with Leishman stain. Now what is the use of Leishman stain? Why do you perform Leishman stain instead of easier stains? Leishman stain is a stain which gives proper identification of various bone marrow cells like erythroid cells, myeloid cells, megakaryocytes. As you know, myeloid cells, they can be differentiated into granulocytes and non-granulocytes. So, as you know, granulocytes, they contain various types of granules in their cytoplasm. Now these granules, they are properly stained by Leishman stain. So how do we perform Leishman stain? It is a bluish stain which is dropped on the smear. The smear is covered completely. The stain itself contains a fixative. So usually around 2 to 5 minutes the stain is kept. To it is added a buffer solution of pH 6.8 in equal volume. The both of the solutions are mixed. They are aerated, and the mixture is then kept for 5 to 7 minutes. After that, the smears are washed thoroughly with the help of buffer. And after drying, the smears are examined under the microscope. So initially under 10x, that is low power lens, followed by 40x, that is higher power lens, and then finally under oil immersion lens to report the myelogram and presence of abnormal cells, any inclusions, any parasites. So under 10x, we identify the marrow particle, screen the whole smear for cellularity. We also note down a better area for further examination in which cells are properly spread. We count at least 200 cells and examine for normal erythroid cells, their precursors, myeloid cells, immature myeloid cells, right from blast, stem cells, then promyelocytes, myelocytes, various types of granulocytes like neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, monocytes, lymphocytes, any abnormal cells like lymphoblast, monoblast, myeloblasts. We identify megakaryocytes, whether the megakaryocytes are normal, abnormal, what is the number of megakaryocytes, and then we also examine the erythroid cells, whether the erythroid cells are normal or there is myelodysplasia, dyserythropoiesis, segmentation of erythroid nuclei, or there is megaloblastic change. So many things we see under the microscope and examine the bone marrow. Now, what is myeloperoxidase stain? Now, this myeloperoxidase stain is a special stain which identifies myeloid cells. That is, it identifies or it stains various granules which are there inside the granulocytes and immature myeloid cells. So when a cell contains dark bluish or brownish type of granules in its cytoplasm, the cell is identified as a myeloid cell. So how do we do myeloperoxidase stain? First, the smears which are to be seen under the microscope, they are fixed by a fixative. Now this fixative is a mixture of 10% mixture of 40% formalin and ethanol, that is ethyl alcohol. So we take 9 volumes, 9 ml of ethyl alcohol and 1 ml of 40% formalin. We mix it. So this is a 10% formal ethanol solution. So we fix the smears over this 10% formal ethanol solution, and further these fixed smears will be used for myeloperoxidase stain. Now this myeloperoxidase stain contains two solutions, solution 1 and solution 2. This solution 1 can be prepared by taking 300 milligrams of benzidine powder. This is a powder which is dissolved afterwards in 99 ml of absolute ethanol. Further, we saturate or we make a saturated solution of sodium nitroprusside. Now sodium nitroprusside crystals are available. Now these sodium nitroprusside crystals are saturated in distilled water and a solution is prepared. 1 ml of this saturated sodium nitroprusside solution is mixed with the benzyl ethanol solution. Now this is solution 1 which can be used for almost 3 months. Now solution 2 is freshly prepared. So when you want to stain the smears with myeloperoxidase, then this solution 2 is prepared by taking 6 drops of hydrogen peroxide in 25 ml of distilled water. Now after preparation of solution 1 and solution 2, now we proceed further for myeloperoxidase staining. We take a normal smear, blood smear as a control, and bone marrow smear which is to be stained. We add 10 drops of solution 1 to the smear which is fixed or a bone marrow smear. So we take fixed bone marrow smear and a normal smear which is also fixed. We cover the smears with 10 drops of solution 1. It is kept for 30 seconds. Then we add 5 drops of solution 2 to the solution 1 which is covering the smear. Now this is kept for 4 to 5 minutes, and then it is washed for 1.5 minutes. The smear is dried, and further Leishman stain is done on the same smear. So it is called as counter staining. So initially we take a bone marrow smear, we fix it. We take a normal smear, we fix it. Both these normal and bone marrow smears, we add 10 drops of solution 1, keep for 30 seconds. To it, add 5 drops of solution 2, keep it for 4 to 5 minutes. Wash both the smears, air dry, and see under the oil immersion. The result is immature myeloid cells. They show in their cytoplasm bluish brown granules. These granules are also seen in neutrophils. So neutrophils can be identified as control cells. Now myeloblast, immature myeloid cells, and few other myeloid cells, they stain positive for these myeloperoxidase, whereas monoblast, lymphoblast or lymphocytes, they are negative for this myeloperoxidase stain. So that is how the myeloperoxidase stain is important, because it identifies myeloid blast cells. How do we report the bone marrow? A bone marrow first is examined whether it is cellular. Then we count myeloid and erythroid cells. We report its ratio. Then we identify various cells in bone marrow and a myelogram is reported. Then we see for morphology of erythroid cells, morphology of myeloid cells, morphology of megakaryocytes, any presence of abnormal cells, presence of parasites, and we report it. Finally, what is the impression? That is, what is the probable diagnosis? So that is how a bone marrow is reported. First, cellularity, myeloerythroid ratio, a myelogram, and comments about erythroid, myeloid, and megakaryocytes, and then presence of abnormal cells and presence of parasite. So these are the pictures which show a well spread, well stained bone marrow with Leishman stain, and in the lower right side corner it shows a bone marrow which is stained with myeloperoxidase and showing brownish positivity. So as you know, in few patients the anemia results since birth or immediately after birth, and this is because of congenital or hereditary disorders. That is, a disease or a disorder which is genetically transmitted from one person to another. It is because of genes. The information about the disease is it is there in the genes of the patient and is transported from their ancestors. So these result in anemias which are congenital anemias from the birth. Now, what is the commonest cause? It is because of abnormal hemoglobin. The structure of the hemoglobin is abnormal. So for identification and diagnosis of these congenital anemias, the anemias due to abnormal hemoglobin, we have to identify the abnormal hemoglobin and its structure. For that we have to know what is the normal hemoglobin. In an adult, most of the hemoglobin, that is more than 95% of the hemoglobin, is hemoglobin A. A small part, around 2%, is hemoglobin A2, and a negligible part is hemoglobin F. So a normal person, normal adult, will have more than 95% hemoglobin A, around 2%, 2 to 2.5% hemoglobin A2, and very small part hemoglobin F. In a newborn child, most of the hemoglobin will be hemoglobin F and a small part hemoglobin A. So afterwards, this hemoglobin F is replaced by hemoglobin A in various blood forming cells. Now hemoglobin contains 4 chains. 2 alpha, hemoglobin A contains 2 alpha and 2 beta chains. Hemoglobin A2 contains 2 alpha and 2 delta chains, while F contains 2 alpha and 2 gamma chains. So this constitutes the protein part of the hemoglobin, that is globin part of the hemoglobin. So hemoglobin A contains alpha 2 beta 2, A2 contains alpha 2 delta 2, F contains alpha 2 gamma 2. Now when these globin chains are abnormal, it gives rise to abnormal hemoglobins like sickle or HbS, sickle hemoglobin. And this sickled hemoglobin is less soluble. It forms a crystal inside the RBC. As a result, the RBC shape becomes abnormal, elongated and sickle-like. And as a result, the RBC becomes very fragile. It breaks and gets destroyed very early, as opposed to a normal RBC which usually lives for around 120 days. So a normal RBC lives for 120 days, whereas the sickled RBC, which is irregular, elongated, sickle-like, it remains for a smaller time, gets broken down. As a result, the patient will have repeated and earlier hemolysis of these RBCs. RBC lifespan is decreased, and as a result the patient will have anemia. Now how to identify this sickled cell or sickled hemoglobin? There is a test called as sickling test. The purpose of this test is qualitative determination of sickled hemoglobin and sickle cell disease. What is the sample? We take the sample from suspected patient in EDTA bulb or EDTA tube, and that is a whole blood. So we take EDTA tube, add to it whole blood, mix it and perform the test within 6 hours. If there is delay, we keep the sample at 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. So how is this test performed? We take 2% sodium metabisulfite solution. How to prepare this 2% solution? 20 milligrams of sodium metabisulfite powder in 1 ml of distilled water. We take 4 drops of this 2% sodium metabisulfite. To it we add 1 drop of whole blood. We mix it and immediately take 1 drop of this suspension on a glass slide. It is covered with a cover glass and sealed from all the sides with a petroleum jelly. Now we observe this under microscope. So this suspension of 2% sodium metabisulfite and whole blood we see under the microscope. Now what is the observation? If the patient is having sickle cell anemia or sickle cell disease, so these two pictures, we get a picture like these two pictures. That is, in these two pictures, RBC suspension is seen and the RBCs are not normal. So most of the RBCs are elongated like a shape of leaf, elongated leaf, or like a sickle. So when this occurs, the test is positive, that is sickling test is positive, and the patient has hemoglobin S, that is sickled hemoglobin. There is another hemolytic anemia, and it is because of a disease called as hereditary spherocytosis. Spiro is like a spear. So RBCs, they are like spears, they are spherical. A normal RBC is not like a spear, it is a disc-like RBC. So it can expand or it can become small, it can become molded while it passes through blood vessel, a small capillary. So a normal RBC is like a disc, But in these patients, that is a patient of hereditary spherocytosis, the RBC is slightly smaller and it is spherical. And as a result, the RBC is easily broken down. There is easy hemolysis, and as a result, the patient has anemia. So, how to identify this disease? This disease is identified with the help of this osmotic fragility test. What is osmotic fragility? It is a resistance of erythrocyte to withstand or resist osmotic pressure. If the RBCs are placed in diluted solution, RBC should resist. This fragility is increased in hereditary spherocytosis, and it can be detected by this test. Hemolysis in this starts earlier and gets completed in higher concentration of saline. So, increased fragility is found in hereditary spherocytosis, while decreased fragility is found in iron deficiency anemia, thalassemia, and sickle cell disease. So, what do we do in this method? We suspend RBCs of various concentration of normal saline. Sample is taken from venous blood, kept in heparin or EDTA. After collection of sample, we perform the test within 6 hours. What are the reagents? The first is a stock solution of 7.4 pH. So, to 1 liter of distilled water, we add 90 grams of sodium chloride, 13.65 grams of disodium hydrogen phosphate, and 2.34 grams of sodium dihydrogen phosphate. So, these two chemicals, disodium hydrogen phosphate and sodium dihydrogen phosphate and sodium chloride, we add to distilled water in these proportions. We store this solution in a well stoppered bottle at room temperature. It should not be contaminated. If it is contaminated or turbid, it is not used. Then we prepare a working solution, that is, we dilute this stock solution in a proportion 1:10 of distilled water. We take 14 test tubes, and to these 14 test tubes we add working solution and distilled water in following proportion. That is, we first add working solution in first tube 4.5 ml, then 4 ml, then 3.75 ml, like that, and to it we add distilled waters in various proportion. As a result, we get sodium chloride concentrations in the form of 0.9, 0.8, 0.75, like that. So, to these test tubes we add sample. So, before taking the sample, we shake the sample into 8 to 10 times, mix it properly, and to these 14 test tubes we add 50 microliter of sample into each tube. We mix it and allow to stand for 30 minutes. We remix and centrifuge for 10 minutes at 1200 rpm, and then we read the absorbance of supernatant solution at 540 nanometers. Absorbance of first tube acts as a blank, and then we take absorbances of various test tubes, which are called as test absorbances. So, we identify the median corpuscular fragility by identifying 50% hemolysis. Now, what is the normal observation? Mean corpuscular fragility is seen at the 9th or 10th tube in a normal patient. In case of hereditary spherocytosis, we get the MCF in 7th or 8th or 6th tube. So, normally hemolysis starts at 7th or 8th, and median is counted and in the 9th or 10th tube. While in case of hereditary spherocytosis, the hemolysis starts in 4th or 5th tube and median is seen in 7th or 8th tube. So fragility is increased. That is how we identify the hereditary spherocytosis. Precautions should be taken that pH of the stock solution should be proper. Always a fresh sample has to be run, and test should be carried out at 20 degrees centigrade. So these are the precautions which we should take while performing the osmotic fragility. So these were the important tests to identify anemia. One was bone marrow examination. The second we saw was sickling test to identify sickle cell disease, and third was the osmotic fragility to see for increased fragility of RBCs.